हाय गाइस, क्या हाल चाल है भाई? हाउ इज एवरीबॉडी? कैसे हो आप लोग? क्या हाल चाल है? So today is Wednesday. Today is my second class of the week, and welcome to the Catalysis channel. And this is Saurav Goswami. And welcome to another session, the second session for qualitative analysis. On the first session was about detection of ions. Second session भी हमारा detection of ions पे ही है. And please do remember that we are gonna discuss it in a very systematic, very interesting manner, so that your understanding of this particular topic is as good as possible. मतलब ऐसा ना हो कि आप पीछे रह जाओ और हम आगे निकल जाएं. We are not planning to do that. We are planning to go in sync with each other, and you should also try to do something that once the lecture is done, look at the lecture, go through the lecture once again, and maybe like try to go through any textbook that you have. Okay, good morning guys, good morning everybody, and lovely to see you guys over here so very early in the morning. So chalo, let's start today's session with with something that we have been doing all along until now. Let's start our session with the homework problem of the last class. The homework problem of the last class was this, that I had told you that there is vinegar. I had asked you to identify that what is that white powder which is being added which causes this particular reaction, and as a result of this particular uh, as a result of this particular level of effervescence that you are seeing, a lot of people were able to identify that obviously this must be giving off some amount of carbon dioxide. And the most common example of that white compound which is giving this level of carbon dioxide is sodium bicarbonate, NaHCO3, or baking soda. Okay, so NaHCO3. NaHCO3 must have reacted with H plus, which would have come from the acetic acid molecule. So acetic acid से ये H plus आया है, and this must have reacted with NaHCO3 to generate H2CO3. And H2CO3 जो होता है, that is a very weak acid, and it is disintegrates to form H2O and CO2. So this CO2 is observed as that effervescence. Okay, this CO2 is being observed as that effervescence. Okay, so let's look at people who have answered correctly. Akanksha, Vivek Vikas, Sanjana, Kirti, Sayak, and Sujit. Very good, guys. You have answered it correctly, and this is good. Like, if you're able to see a reaction, identify what is happening, that starts setting a precedence to understand qualitative analysis in a more systematic manner. Okay, now in the last class, what did we discuss? In the last class we had discussed about the dilute acid group. मैंने आपको बताया था कि अब जितने सारे anions हैं, we divide them into two categories. One is the dilute acid group and one is the concentrated acid group. The dilute acid group includes those anions which are derived from weak acids. These are conjugate bases of weak acids, or these are derived from weak acids. And so these anions which are included in the dilute acid group are the strong bases. Okay, are the strong bases or more stable. They have a high tendency to accept a H plus ion. So इनको ये acid radicals हैं, हमने जान लिया था कि why they are called acid radicals and what is the reason they are being included over here. We had learned about their reactions, that for carbonate, sulfide, NO2 minus, that is nitrite, and acetate. All these anions we had finished in the last class. In this session, we will try to talk about the rest of the anions. So we will talk about the concentrated acid group. Now concentrated acid group में हमने क्या बोला था आपको कि concentrated acid group will include those anions which are derived from strong acids. जैसे Cl minus, it is derived from HCl. Br minus, it is derived from HBr. I minus, which is derived from HI. NO3 minus, which is derived from HNO3. And oxalate, which is derived from HC2O4 minus. So they're fairly strong acids, and from these strong acids we are deriving these anions. और इन anions को detect करने के लिए, to detect these anions have less tendency to take up H+. To detect these anions, the reagent which is required is concentrated H2SO4. So you can see this over here is that we are utilizing concentrated H2SO4. Concentrated H2SO4. Okay? Understood? It is derived from concentrated H2SO4. Now, concentrated H2SO4, why do we use concentrated H2SO4? Because concentrated H2SO4 can perform three different functions. Concentrated H2SO4 can perform dehydration. It can dehydrate. It can dehydrate. It can perform oxidation because it's a strong oxidizing agent, and it can function as a strong acid. So there are three very, very important properties of H2SO4 that is being utilized over here for the detection of these anions. अब हमें ये जानना है कि H2SO4 का behavior, what is the behavior of H2SO4 with each of these anions. So let's look over here. So if I take the concentrated acid group, for Cl minus anion, the behavior of H2SO4 with Cl minus anion is like that of an acid. So if I say that if the behavior is that of an acid, that means Cl minus is taking up a H plus. Okay, Cl minus will be taking up a H plus. Okay, so the behavior is different. So as Priya is asking that, sir, will redox reaction take place if we use H2SO4? So Priya, my answer to you is there are different ways H2SO4 reacts with these anions. Okay, with certain anions it behaves as an oxidizing agent. With certain anions it behaves as a dehydrating agent. With certain anions it behaves as an acid. So there are three properties of H2SO4 which we are utilizing over here. Okay, clear? So let's look at this part, that what is happening with each of these anions. What is the behavior of H2SO4 with each of these anions? So the behavior of H2SO4 with Cl minus, the behavior of H2SO4 with Cl minus is like that of an acid. Cl minus will take up H plus and will convert into HCl. While the behavior of H2SO4 with bromide and iodide is that of an oxidizing agent. Please look over here. I have mentioned this over here that the behavior with bromide and iodide is that of an oxidizing agent. That means if I take bromide and put that thing in H2SO4, then H2SO4 will try to remove electrons from bromide and will convert it into bromine, which appears as a reddish brown gas. Okay? So you have to remember, okay, you have to remember that what is the behavior of H2SO4 with each of these species. With nitrate, it behaves as an acid. Nitrate, it behaves as an acid. And with oxalate, C2O4 minus, it behaves as an acid as well as a dehydrating agent. तो आप देख रहे हो कि with every anion I am utilizing one of the properties or two of the properties of H2SO4. ठीक है, इतनी सारी properties और कोई acid show नहीं करता है, which is more easily like an acid which is easily available and shows all these three properties. That is the reason H2SO4 is known as the king of chemicals. ठीक है. Now you have to understand what is happening with each of them. So chloride, if takes up H plus, it turns into HCl. Bromide and iodide, if undergo oxidation, they will become bromine and iodine. Nitrate, if takes up H plus, it will become HNO3. And HNO3 को आप जब heat करते हो ना, when you heat HNO3, you will get NO2, NO2 and H2O. NO2 gas जो है, NO2 gas appears as a reddish brown vapor. So you will get brown vapors coming out from the test tube in which there is a nitrate salt. And oxalate will get converted into that oxalic acid unit, which if dehydrated gives carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide and H2O. अब एक तीनों चीजें काफी सिंपल है समझनी. Carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide and H2O, which are obtained as a dehydration product. Okay. Now if I take CO2, CO2 को कैसे डिटेक्ट करते हैं? CO2 is being detected by lime water. It turns lime water milky. But how do we detect carbon monoxide? तो हम करते क्या है कि oxalate, if it is suspected to be an oxalate salt, then we pass the gas through lime water and we pass the gas through a burner. We burn this gas. Carbon monoxide which is present will burn with a blue edged flame. Okay, carbon monoxide burns with a blue edged flame. We'll see this thing later as well, but let's move ahead. Let's see what are we supposed to cover. Okay, so let's start with the individual tests for each anion. So just a moment. Okay, so let's start with chloride. I'm hiding myself because I have to use the screen for a for explaining a lot of things. So chloride का सबसे पहला टेस्ट देखो क्या है. The first test of chloride is glass rod dipped in NH3 solution. तो आप करते क्या हो? You take the chloride salt and you add H2SO4. It liberates HCl gas. Okay, so you have taken a vessel in which you have added H2SO4, just a moment, let me see if I can shift myself over here. Okay, I'll take it. So you take a glass, you take a test tube in which you take a chloride salt and you add some H2SO4. Whatever gas is liberated, अब गैस का लिबरेशन जैसे ही देखते हो, you take a test tube, you take a glass rod, and in the glass rod you moisten the glass rod with ammonium hydroxide. अमोनिया सॉल्यूशन को बोलते हैं अमोनियम हाइड्रोक्साइड. उसको टेस्ट ट्यूब के माउथ पे लेके आना है. You have to bring the test tube to the mouth. You have to bring that glass rod to the mouth of the test tube and you will see white fumes. In fact, it will look like this. So whenever you have HCl and NH3 coming close to each other, you will have white fumes. Can you see this? So when you are bringing these two vessels close to each other, the HCl and NH3, when they are being brought next to each other, white fumes are evolved. So that gives a positive indication that ammonium chloride is getting formed because of a reaction between ammonia vapors and HCl vapors. Okay, ammonia vapors and HCl vapors. Clear? Next is salt plus AgNO3. A simple test. ये सबसे simple है. What we do is this we had read in coordination compounds as well. So you take salt and you add AgNO3. You will get white precipitate which is soluble in NH4OH. Please do remember, not just getting white precipitate is important, but you have to check its solubility in NH4OH. So if you are getting white precipitate, then why are you getting white precipitate? Because Because can you see this? You're adding AgNO3 and you're getting white precipitate. The white precipitate is being observed because the salt might contain chloride, and chloride must have reacted with AgNO3 so as to form a white precipitate of AgCl. ठीक है, तो आपको ऐसा दिखेगा. Okay, is that clear? चलो, let's look at the next reaction. Salt plus MnO2 plus H2SO4. So what you do is you take some salt and you add some MnO2. MnO2 is black powder. एक black color का powder रहता है, उसको आप add करते हैं, and then you add H2SO4. What you observe is a greenish yellow gas. It will look like this. Can you see this? देखो greenish yellow gas दिख रहा है आपको. You put that thing in, so you warm it. So you take the salt, you add some MnO2 and you add H2SO4 and you warm it. You will get a greenish yellow gas. This gas looks greenish yellow. देख रहे हो इसको? Gas looks greenish yellow. So what is the reason you are getting this greenish yellow gas? The reason you are getting this greenish yellow gas is because this if you take MnO2, okay, if you take MnO2 and H2SO4, then MnO2 changes to Mn2 plus and chloride or MnO2 changes to Mn2 plus and chloride changes to Cl2. So इसको हम ऐसे लिख देंगे. If there is Cl minus and there is MnO2, it will change into Cl2 plus Mn2 plus. Okay, so this is what is happening over here. Clear? This is what is happening over here. Up next and the last one is salt plus dichromate plus H2SO4. So what you get is I'll just mention this over here. I think it is hidden. You will get reddish vapors of CrO2Cl2. This is known as chromyl chloride test. Chromyl chloride test क्या होता है? You take the salt, you add dichromate and you add H2SO4 and you heat it, you will get reddish vapors. Can you see this? देखो red color के vapors आपको मिल रहे हैं यहाँ पे. Okay, you will get reddish color vapors. And what is this guy doing? You can see in this image that what is this guy doing? This guy is collecting this chlorine gas which is coming out. Why he is collecting the chromyl chloride vapors which are coming out, not chlorine gas, chromyl chloride vapors which are coming out, because chromyl chloride, if is collected in a test tube, and to that test tube if you add NaOH, you will get a precipitate of Na2CrO4, and Na2CrO4 is, my dear students, Na2CrO4 gives a yellow colored solution. So याद रखो, ये जो रिएक्शन है इसको हम बोलते हैं क्रोमाइल क्लोराइड टेस्ट. क्रोमाइल क्लोराइड टेस्ट में होता क्या है कि आप सॉल्ट लेते हैं एंड टू दैट यू ऐड डाइक्रोमेट, ओके, एंड देन यू ऐड H2SO4. Clear? Take salt, you add dichromate and you add H2SO4 and you warm it gently. You get deep red colored vapors of chromyl chloride. Okay, and then you collect chromyl chloride vapors in a test tube and to it you add NaOH. You get a yellow colored solution or you get a yellow colored precipitate. Okay, if I were to write the reaction, how would I write the reaction? I would take chloride, dichromate and H plus. सिंपल सा रिएक्शन है. मैं यहाँ पे लिखूंगा क्लोराइड प्लस Cr2O7 minus plus H plus. This will give rise to CrO2Cl2. Okay, this will give rise to CrO2Cl2. ठीक है, and CrO2Cl2 if is being made to react with OH minus gives CrO4 2 minus and Cl minus. CrO4 2 minus plus Cl minus. ठीक है? So remembering the gist of the reactions is enough. You do not have to remember the whole reaction. You can remember the gist of the reaction and that will be enough. Okay? So this was about chloride. Let's go on to bromide. So yeah, let me just position myself properly. Okay. So bromide. What happens in bromide? First and foremost, सबसे पहला टेस्ट हमारा क्या होगा? AgNO3 वाला टेस्ट. You take the salt and you add AgNO3. In case of chloride, we were obtaining a white precipitate. In case of bromide, we will obtain a pale yellow precipitate. ठीक है? Pale yellow. These colors are important. You will obtain a pale yellow precipitate. Can you see this? You are getting a silver nitrate is being added. You can see this image. Pale yellow precipitate is being obtained. Okay, and it is because AgBr is being precipitated. This is because AgBr is being precipitated. AgBr, which is precipitated, is partially soluble. Is partially soluble in H4OH. Okay. Next, similar reaction like previous one, MnO2 H2SO4 reaction. You take MnO2 and you take H2SO4 in the salt and you gently heat it. We'll observe brown fumes. So can you see this? You have this salt and you are heating the salt. You're adding MnO2 and then you're heating the salt. What the contents of the test tube, and what you are obtaining is a reddish brown vapor. You're obtaining a reddish brown vapor. And ये reddish brown vapor क्यों मिल रहा है? ये एकदम simple सा reaction है. You take Br minus, like Br minus, let me just write it as Br minus. So Br minus is reacting with MnO2 in presence of H plus, and it is giving rise to Br2 plus Mn2 plus. Okay, clear? I hope this is understood. And there is a third reaction which is known as the layer test. Layer test होता क्या है? Layer test बहुत interesting चीज है. Layer test में हम करते क्या हैं कि we take a, okay, so let me just, okay, so can you see that there are two different layers that we are able to see over here. So what is layer test? We take a salt solution, okay, we take a salt solution, and salt solution, to that salt solution we add this CCl4, okay, एक non-polar solvent डाल देते हैं. So CCl4, we take a salt solution and to which we add CCl4, तो दो different layer में break कर जाता है. Now we add chlorine water to it, okay, we add chlorine water to it. और आप ऐसा कर सकते हो कि you take the salt solution and you add chlorine water to it and then you add CCl4. So you will see two different layers. If you let it stand for a while, then you will see that the CCl4 layer is becoming slightly reddish because bromine is going in the CCl4 layer. ऐसा होता क्यों है? Okay, why does this happen? Can you see this? So if there would have been a bromide species, then जैसे ही आप chlorine water add करते हो, it turns into bromine and chloride. So chloride displaces bromine, and so this bromine which is produced, these species have more affinity to dissolve in non-polar solvents. They have more tendency to dissolve in non-polar solvents rather than to dissolve in polar solvents. So ये करते क्या हैं? They are being produced in the polar medium and they go inside the non-polar medium and are present over there. That is the reason you will see two different layers. The CCl4 layer will become colored. पहले CCl4 layer colored नहीं था. CCl4 is a colorless liquid. You add CCl4, it is a colorless liquid, but it is separated in there are two different layers because it will not mix with water. But if you let this stand for a while, then bromine will go in the CCl4 layer and will make it colored. Okay. Is that clear? Chalo. The next thing is, okay, the next ion that we would talk about is iodide. Okay, so iodide, again two reactions देख लो. दो अभी तक आपको समझ में आ गया हो कि MnO2 के साथ क्या होने वाला, AgNO3 के साथ क्या होने वाला. So if I take AgNO3, then a precipitate would be obtained, and this precipitate in case of AgNO3 is yellow. Can you see this? The precipitate is yellow. The precipitate is yellow. And AgI precipitate, this precipitate is of AgI. AgI is insoluble in ammonium hydroxide. Okay, AgI is insoluble in ammonium hydroxide. Okay, now guys, this is not there in class 11th, but it will come in JEE as well as NEET. Okay, it is there in class 12. This is a part of practical chemistry here. Okay, so anything that we are doing over here is exclusively for the JEE examination as well as for the NEET examination. Okay, so maybe it's not there in 11th, but yeah, it will be there in 12th. Next, salt plus MnO2 and H2SO4. So salt में आपने क्या किया कि MnO2 डाला, H2SO4 डाला, what, and you warm it a bit, you will get violet vapors of I2. So if you take I minus and you take MnO2, you will get Mn2 plus I2. आयोडीन मिलेगा आपको, एंड आयोडीन के वेपर्स का कलर क्या होता है? वायलेट. ठीक है, क्लियर? अंडरस्टूड? आई होप यू हैव अंडरस्टूड दिस. द नेक्स्ट टेस्ट इज ऑफ, तो हमने कितने कवर कर लिए? क्लोराइड, ब्रोमाइड, आयोडाइड. बचा कौन कौन सा है? विच थिंग्स आर लेफ्ट आउट? दैट इज नाइट्रेट एंड oxalate. So what is nitrate test? Okay, how to detect nitrate? So nitrate, so HNO3 which is formed. So I had told you that with nitrate H2SO4 behaves as an acid. So your NO3 minus will take up H plus, to turn into HNO3, and this HNO3 will decompose to give NO2, O2 and H2O. Okay, so this NO2 which is obtained will be brown in color. ये brown vapors रहते हैं. Okay, it is brown vapor. Clear? It is a brown vapor. Now the moment you add copper turnings to it, the brown vapor intensifies. ज़्यादा brown vapor निकलने शुरू हो जाएंगे. ऐसा होता क्यों है? Copper will react with HNO3 and will further decompose it to give NO2 gas. ठीक है? Third reaction, which is the most interesting one, is known as the brown ring test. In the brown ring test, what we do, we take the salt solution, we add FeSO4. Okay, we add FeSO4 to it. FeSO4 freshly prepare करके डालते हैं, and we add H2SO4 from the side of the test tube very very slowly. At the junction of these two liquids, you will see a brown ring. Okay, brown ring getting formed. Okay, silent killer. Man, how to join Vedantu crash course? The Vedantu crash course details will be there in the description box. Okay, so it will be given in the description of the video. Also, you can check the community page for that. Okay, so the brown ring test will be given when H2SO4 comes in contact with the salt which is present along with FeSO4. अब ये brown ring का जो formula होता है, that is being asked in the examination, it is FeH2O5 NOSO4. Okay, this is FeH2O5 NOSO4. Very important but very simple identification. ठीक है, नेक्स्ट हम देखते हैं ऑक्सलेट का. ऑक्सलेट के लिए दो चीजें बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट हैं, आपको ये याद रखना है कि ऑक्सलेट विल रिएक्ट विथ H plus. Okay, oxalate will react with H plus to form oxalic acid, and it will turn into oxalic acid, and oxalic acid decomposes. We have decompose oxalic acid by heating, and it gives two types of substances which are important. It gives CO2 and CO. CO2 turns lime water milky, and carbon monoxide burns with a blue flame. तो आप इस गैस को पास कराइए एक ट्यूब से, and then you burn the gases. Then you put a matchstick at the end of the test tube from where the gases are coming out. The gases will start burning, and the gas burns with a blue flame, and that gives an indication that this gas is carbon monoxide and the salt is oxalate. Okay, clear? Now there are certain other anions whose detection is not made using dilute acid as well as concentrated acid. In some other anions, these anions are detected by individual reagents. So please remember that some other anions, so they are detected by individual reagents. Okay, these are detected by individual reagents. ये कुछ हमारे पास 6 ऐसे anions हैं. इनमें से सबसे कॉमन anion जो है that is sulfate and phosphate. सल्फेट को टेस्ट करने का तरीका यह है कि you take the salt solution and you add barium chloride to it. If it gives a white precipitate, then which is insoluble in HCl or HNO3, then it is sulfate because it will form a barium sulfate precipitate. और ये इस तरह का दिखेगा. अब देखो, it will give barium sulfate precipitate. Clear? Which chapter is this? Jasjeet भाई चैप्टर नेम लिखा हुआ है. इट इज रिटन क्वालिटेटिव एनालिसिस. आप वीडियो पे आके कमेंट कर रहे हो, अब देखो तो डिस्क्रिप्शन बॉक्स में. ओके, इट्स रिटन ऑलरेडी दैट it's the topic name is qualitative analysis. Okay, the next one is phosphate. तो phosphate के लिए हम टेस्ट क्या करते हैं? You take the salt solution. अब when would we do these tests? Suppose I have to detect just one anion and I have done the tests for dilute acid group and I have done the test for concentrated acid group and I have not detected anything. Then I will go for these specific tests. तो हम सबसे पहले सल्फेट का कर लेंगे. सल्फेट के लिए you take the salt solution, you add a bit of barium chloride, you will get a precipitate of barium sulfate which is insoluble in HCl as well as HNO3. Okay, so the next one is phosphate. How do we detect phosphate? फॉस्फेट को डिटेक्ट करने का तरीका ये होता है कि you take the solution and you add ammonium molybdate to it. Remember, in examination as well, if it is written ammonium molybdate is a specific reagent which gives tests only for phosphate, and what we get is ammonium phosphomolybdate. We get ammonium phosphomolybdate which is canary yellow. Can you see this? ये yellow को बोलते हैं canary yellow. This yellow is known as canary yellow. काफी bright yellow होता है. Canary is a bird, very beautiful yellow colored bird. So canary yellow precipitate. Okay. If you take borates, if there are borates, मान लो ये दोनों भी नहीं detect हुए, then you go for borate. Then what you do is you take salt and you take H2SO4 and you add alcohol to it. Okay, you can add methanol or you can add ethanol. ये दोनों में से कोई एक alcohol आप add कर दो. So what you do, take salt, take H2SO4 and then you add alcohol to it. What will happen is that it will turn into a BOME3 or BOET3 kind of a salt, kind of a compound. This compound when burnt, अगर आप इसको burn करते हो तो ये जो gas जो evolve BOME3 and BOET3, it burns with a green flame or green edged flame. Okay, ये कुछ इस तरह का दिखता है. It burns with a green flame or a green edged flame. Okay. Now the fluoride, chromate and thiosulfate, these anions are rarely asked but simple tests हैं. Fluoride के लिए करना क्या है? Take the salt, add H2SO4 and add sand to it. थोड़ा बालू डाल देना है आपको. You add some sand to it. Some vapors come out which turn waxy. So you bring a moist rod. These vapors which come out, they turn moist, they turn waxy. Why it turns waxy? Because what comes out over here is SiF4. Salt, sand ले रहे हो. Sand में क्या present रहता है? Silica. So silica will react with the fluoride and fluoride will turn it into SiF4. Okay, SiF4 will combine with H2O. SiF4 will combine with H2O and it will turn into H2SiF6, hydrofluorosilicic acid. This is known as hydrofluorosilicic acid. Hydrofluorosilicic acid. And ये waxy, ये wax के जैसा दिखता है. Okay. Akanksha, why would we do charcoal test when we are detecting anions? Okay, charcoal tests come for detection of cations. Okay, so एक systematic test चल रहा है ना. This is going in a chronological order. We are first trying to do the test for anions, and then we'll do the test for cations. Then we'll study the test for cations. Okay. CrO4 2-. This is chromate, not dichromate. Chromate gives a red precipitate with AgNO3. If you have a chromate entity, you add AgNO3, you will get red precipitate. And for thiosulfate, it will give a white precipitate. Thiosulfate और chloride वगैरह में कोई दिक्कत नहीं है. Thiosulfate and chloride will give the same reaction. It will give a white precipitate. So white precipitate, whenever you are getting with AgNO3, you should be careful that if you are getting a white precipitate with AgNO3, then it could be chloride, it could be thiosulfate. But when you add water to it, if you add water to it, then the sample which is present will turn black. Okay, the sample which is present will turn black. ये chloride के केस में नहीं होता है, ये thiosulfate के केस में होता है. Clear? So with this we cover all the anions which are to be studied for the JEE examination as well as for the NEET examination. इसमें से याद रखिए कि most important are those anions which are present in the dilute acid group and the concentrated acid group. From these, some other anions जिनके लिए individual test कर रहे हो, for which you are doing individual tests, Of them, sulfate and phosphate are most important. Okay? So you need to know these information. If you remember these pictures, if you remember these images, then the recollection of these observations becomes easy. Okay? आपको observation recollect करना है. That is what you have to do. Clear? So that's all for today, guys. In the next session, we will discuss the tests for cations. So हम cations के लिए जब टेस्ट स्टार्ट करेंगे तो उनके लिए हम दो तरह पार्ट में टेस्ट करेंगे. We will study dry tests and we will study wet tests. Dry tests are those which are given by cations in absence of water, and wet tests are those which are given by cations in presence of water, means when we take salt solution. Okay, please do write in the comment section that if you were able to understand this these tests, and if you have any doubts, please do write about that as well. Okay, और अगर आपको अच्छा लगा, so please do like the video. Please do tell your friends to watch the videos, because qualitative analysis, people think that it needs to be memorized a lot, but no. If you remember a certain set of information which keeps on getting repeated, so qualitative analysis is one of the most scoring topics. Okay, clear? So chalo, so that's all for today, guys. Sarvagna, guys, Sarvagna, how? No, I cannot tell you that from where I am getting these images. I cannot tell you that. I'm very sorry. But yeah, they are freely available. You just need to use the proper keywords to search for these. Okay? Chalo. Bye-bye, guys. Have a lovely time. Let's meet on Friday and we'll start with cations. Okay? Chalo. Bye-bye.